Hello, 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 and welcome to Survivor Debrief. My name's Eden Porter, the unlucky loser from Survivor Titans versus Rebels, and with me, as always, is my comedic partner and real-life brother, Joshua Quartier. Hey, Josh, how you
Such
going?
a big loser. That's right. You're a big
That's me,
old
mate.
loser.
That's me. That's me. Get
Week
around
4.
me.
We're 4 weeks in now.
4 weeks in, a month
It's
of
getting
Survivor
deep.
we've
A
had,
month of
and
Survivor, yeah.
we've got episode 10, 11, and 12 to
And
discuss.
what a strange series of episodes it was, wasn't it, Aiden?
Sometimes people talk about like these are the 3 best episode runs that you've had, and this is so interesting. This was not the best episode run we've ever seen. This was really quite a strange episode
Yeah,
run.
there looked like there was going to be some cool, interesting stuff that kind of fizzled a bit, and obviously the lack of people going home felt very strange.
Yeah, I know. And then other people that did go home that didn't make any sense, but we'll
Yes.
get to that later.
We'll get to that.
Let's start off with episode 10. Yes, episode 10. What were some of the big moments from episode 10 for you?
Well, this is coming off the
Josh?
back of Max going home.
Correct.
And the big thing that to me was just seeing the way that Miles is being treated, being on the bottom and being the dish boy. I think everyone's
Yeah.
treating him really poorly because he's on the bottom. And then like trying to pull him in on stuff as well. And it's kind of like you don't get both. You either treat someone
No.
like crap and you
Yeah.
get them out next, or you work with them and pull them in.
I completely like. It's so weird that you think like treating someone bad and then coming back to them, and people. A lot of people have done it in this a couple of episodes. They come back to them and be like, "Well, let's do this now. Come with us. Come and
Yeah.
join our ranks." It's like, no, you've got to put in the work beforehand.
Yeah.
I actually think Jesse was projecting onto Miles his upsetness of losing Max, because remember, him and Max really started to become friends. And so I think he started to really take that out on Miles, which is so unfair. Like it was not nice. It was not
It's
a
not
nice
nice.
vibe.
So the
And
most interesting thing with this though is Miles, it seems like he's fully trying to jump ship away from Zara and Laura. It's being
Yes.
like, I'm done with you guys. Like clearly you're putting my name down. I'm not useful to you. I'm going to jump over. So he starts spilling all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then later in the episode, we see Zara cracking it at him, being like, what are you doing? You're ruining this game. You're telling them everything.
So she says, like, this is a nightmare, Miles.
Yeah.
You're blowing up my game. You're blowing up Laura's game. Don't take me down with you. All this sort of stuff. And Miles goes, you just voted for me.
Exactly.
You just voted for me. We are not together.
It's
You tried to get me
absolutely
out.
bonkers that she thinks he is with them and owes them anything.
And owes them something.
Yeah.
I know that they're still technically in the graduates, but you just voted for him.
Yeah.
You cannot expect him to toe the line at that point.
Exactly.
Like you've got to be able to put your brain into someone else's head and
I've
go,
really noticed
yeah.
this a few times this season where people getting really angry and annoyed at other people blowing up their game and like ruining their game. And it's kind of like,
Yeah.
they're trying to let them win. They're trying to win for themselves. You don't have this freeway run that you just get to cruise along and everyone does what you want. That's the whole point of this show. You know what I mean?
So we talk about it a lot, but it's main character energy.
Yeah.
And people do take that on board to the point of, well, I'm the hero of this story, and everyone else are pawns and extras in this tale. And so when people do something that doesn't line up with your little worldview
Yeah.
of Survivor, it's you're doing this. You're ruining my game. Can't you understand that?
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
can't think about, well, Miles is actually just trying to save himself at this point.
Yeah.
Like that's what's so crazy. And I think Miles, like when Miles realized he was the only one that voted for Kate and realized that everyone voted for
Yeah.
him, like he was just like, what am I going to do? And the funny thing was when he was spilling the beans at the Parma shop that they had, he was doing it in front of Laura and
Yeah, I know.
Zara, and it kept panning to them, and it kept going like, Zara's just like,
Cut it out.
yeah, it was that was so again great editing. I love it that people are doing a lot of these things in front of
Yeah.
everyone else. The other thing I wanted to discuss a little bit from this episode was AJ and Noonan's relationship, because I originally thought, and we talked about this last episode, but AJ wanted to play with game players, and he was actually really enjoying having Noonan and Paulie there because they were sort of players. And we see at the start of the episode, AJ says to Noonan, look, I might say that it's you, but it's not you. Like, I actually want to work with you, but I might have to put it out into the world so people throw people off. But I really want to work with you. I actually think in that moment that was genuine. He sort of did. But ultimately, when he and again, we'll get to the challenges, but when he took it upon himself to throw that challenge and not bring in Noonan to that, and you could see Noonan just had a physical, emotional reaction to that, and
Yeah.
the outburst there was real, and
Yeah.
throwing AJ under the bus in that point was like, "I can't believe you did this." Rah, rah, rah. That was pure
Well,
emotion,
yeah.
and it was just it really damaged their relationship after that, and we just couldn't get back on the
I
same
think that's kind
page.
of been the story of AJ, that this interesting
Mm,
flip-flopping between, I've been honest with you, I'm telling you everything, but then I'm also done this thing that I've told no one about, that is my master plan that I'll tell you about afterwards, but I'll still like, though, that kind of behavior. It's like, I don't feel anyone's built super, super solid connections with AJ because he's doing things rogue
mm.
by himself that no one knows about. And so it's like, are you working by yourself or with other people? Like, no one can really tell.
Yeah, I think actually AJ, because AJ is obviously part of the graduates, and what's really helped the graduates, right, is the fact that they have been split up in this tribe swap, so no one can see them as a
Mm.
homogenous group. People can't see them, so it's not really super aware. And what's going to happen is we're going to get to merge, and then they're going to come back together, and no one's going to really be aware of it, and they're going to start to shape the votes as they want from the shadows. And by the time they realize, they're probably not going to be able to have a majority to split votes and do things on it. It's going to be really
Yep.
interesting how that pans out. But I think in that group, I think AJ and Miles are the ones that have the connection with each other. And
Yeah.
I think
Seems
that's
that way.
who AJ is going to work with moving forward.
Similarly, like AJ and Kyle, like Kalen seems to want to keep AJ around as well, and he's done a pretty good job of deflecting votes off AJ at
Yeah, well,
times.
that's the graduate. That's them sticking to the this underground graduate alliance. Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that AJ ended up just going, well, if Noonan's going to throw me under the bus, then I've got to throw, like, Noonan's dead to me now, and we're just going to move forward.
The other thing that was interesting was the the Paulie and Noonan relationship seemed to be nowhere near as strong as it was made out to be. The fact that Paulie was very quick and very able to be like, it's a solo game.
Yeah. So the thing that's really heartbreaking from this is that their relationship was even stronger than what was shown on the screen.
Oh, right.
Like Paulie and Noonan were like ride or die to the end. You and me, final two. This is what's going to happen.
Because you
And
spoke to Noonan, right?
yeah, we did an exit interview with Noonan, and it was really tough. And she was upset that he didn't vote with her at the very end.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
at that point, that he couldn't even just say, you know what, I know she's going high, but I'm not going to vote for her, sort of style. But man, he was on it. He was like, yep, if this is going to save me. But at the end of the day, he had an idol.
Yeah, I know. It's
So
like, it's hard when you're in a spot where you're like, well, I don't think we can do some grand plan here to save each other. So
yeah.
I'm just going to have to flip.
Well, the thing is, if they had been nicer to Christian, Kristen, they could have played something, but she doesn't want anything to do with them. She's like, no,
Yeah.
you guys are dead to me. Because remember, she
She
had
was
an
with
idol.
Ursula, and she was with Ursula. Like,
Yeah, and they just got rid of Ursula.
yeah.
And so what could have happened, they have two idols. You can definitely make something happen with two idols. But because, again, they didn't put in that time to build a relationship, it becomes very forced when you go, hey, do you want to come with us now and use your idol and do
Yeah.
something? And she's like, you don't care about me. You don't care about me.
Should we move on to the challenges?
Yes, we should. Actually, before we do that, no. Just one more thing I wanted to.
Yeah.
It was so funny. Paulie just dropping into conversations. Like, everyone's talking, and then Paulie comes up, and everyone doesn't know what to say, and it's so obvious. It was like,
Well, there's so few
guys.
people, and it's like, who's here? You know, like, oh, okay, I guess you're involved in this conversation now. Well,
And
we'll get to that when we get to the scramble.
Get to that, yeah. Get to the scramble, yeah. But the challenge-wise, we've got the idol toss, which is the idol
You gotta
knock it off
the thing.
Yeah.
Very disappointing that the strategy was just knock off the static one, and then just do this as normal.
My understanding is they brought the static one in to get rid of the throw your idol up in the air. That's the tactic that got.
Yeah.
You know that one,
Yeah.
where you throw your own one up in the air and you just dive on them, and yours
theirs
takes
hits the
longer to
ground. Yeah.
fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they brought that in, so you can't just do that straight away, because your other one will be there.
I really liked them bringing this in. I was like, great, let's see how this goes. This is great.
Yeah. And then all they did was they just walked to it, knocked it out, and played it normally. So again, I think that's people gaming the system.
Yeah.
But I really like this challenge. We did a version of it that I didn't like as much, which was you had a rope tied to your waist, and it was tied to two idols, and then you had to like pull their rope or pull them off.
Yeah.
And mine didn't get shown that I was up against Sarah. And I remember doing it to get the harness off. you have to like I had to take my shirt off to do
Yeah.
it, and I took my shirt off, and JLP goes, "Eden taking his shirt off to intimidate Sarah," and I was like, "JLP, if anything, this is making her more confident." And then we were facing off against each other, and for whatever reason, Sarah just ran at me and pulled both of her idols off and lost instantly, and I didn't move.
And you're like, I want to play the game.
And
We
I
need
was
to
like,
play.
"Oh, okay." That was less hard, and so they didn't show
Default.
yeah,
Default.
exactly. So they didn't end up showing that, which I was a bit disappointed about, but, that's alright. Now this one was for Palmers or Palmies.
It's a pub,
People up
yeah.
in Sydney call them
I know, it's
Palmies.
a Palmer. Come on,
It's
guys.
a
Get real.
Palmer.
Get real, Jesse.
Thank you very much. And also, I wanna try and clip this out, but I did notice in this challenge, JLP was using some funny voices.
Was he?
Did you notice that?
No.
He went, "Okay, Brawn," and stuff like that. I wanna clip it out. I'm gonna post it because it was weird. I don't think
Right
anyone's
on.
noticed it. He
Right
did do a
on.
funny voice. But yeah, and then this leads to obviously the Palmer and Miles spilling the beans, spilling the Palmer, as it were.
Yes.
Yeah, there wasn't much else there. And then we had the cut the wood.
The immunity
Ti
challenge.
Yeah, the immunity challenge. Cut the wood, untie the knots, and then do the shooting the
It was the
basketballs.
log ladder into the basketball throw.
This is true. This is
Um,
true. And this is also the double throwing
The
of the
crazy
challenge.
thing about this, at Eden, if you'll remember, last week, I believe you said this.
Because it honestly, it looks like we could get in a situation where both tribes, it's never happened before, where both tribes are trying to throw. And that's like production's nightmare fuel. Like no one's trying to win challenges anymore. Everyone's just like, I'll go to tribal.
You picked
Mate.
it. You called it.
He picked it. Put me in, coach.
Yeah.
Put me in.
Crazy to see. They're both
Yeah.
just throwing those balls in. And then there's that crazy moment where AJ and Ben just both look at
Ben,
it. You
yeah.
throwing? You throwing? Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
throwing.
yeah.
What happens then?
But okay, so there's two things there. One is Ben didn't admit anything. Ben has only one gear, and AJ's like, "Are you throwing?" He goes, "Are you throwing?" He goes, "I don't know. What are you doing? What are you doing, mate?" And he's just deflecting back. But in this situation, production, I'm telling you right now, production absolutely hate this situation. And you heard at one point, JLP's like, "Let's just both go to tribal then."
Yeah, I wanted that. I would have 100%
absolutely
been
love
like, great, cop this, guys.
So there's another theory that I heard out in the wilderness was, okay, if you can prove that someone threw a challenge, then you go to tribal council, but instead of voting, you just draw rocks and someone random goes home.
Yeah, that's good.
But how do you prove someone threw? How do you actually prove that someone threw? Like
You can kind of tell, but I know what you mean.
but you can't say to someone, "You threw this, didn't you?" And
Yeah.
they go, "Yeah, okay, now we're going to rocks."
Yeah,
because
they'd
of
have
that.
to do a better job at hiding it because
Yes,
it was pretty
This
obvious.
was terrible, man. This was
Yeah.
terrible.
And it just
Noonan-
sucks. And you see it on people's face when they're like, "Come on, man! Like, try and win! Like, I'm trying to win this thing!" Like,
Yeah, Noonan was pissed, as Liz would say, and she hurt her ankle in this challenge, like
Yeah.
working so hard. And again, this comes back to the point: if you don't trust AJ, then why are you putting him in the hero position? Because this comes down to the hero role. You've got to sink the baskets. And I
Yeah.
know AJ plays basketball. He's good at this stuff. And he's like, "I'll do it." But if you're Noonan and Paulie, like I think Paulie should have
Could
gone,
you-
"You know what? I want to do this."
do
I'm
you
gonna
think in that moment when that's happening, you could just get the ball, climb the ladder, and go get out?
No,
Like,
so
I would do that.
So what happens is you can't do that because they will go, once you've chosen, there are some challenges you can that they let you, and then there are others they say there'll be no swapping out.
Oh, really? You should always
Yeah,
do a
yeah,
swap, I reckon.
so we did one where we had to pull the ball, this really heavy ball up onto a
yeah,
lift,
that
and
was really tough.
we had too many guys on the top, and we didn't have enough down below, and so we were like, "Guys, let's switch up. Nath, come down." And
Yeah,
production were
yeah.
like, "No, you cannot do that. You cannot switch. This is your choice, and you've got to stick with it," which is really brutal. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really brutal.
because if you're in that case, you guys like physically couldn't do it, pretty much.
Yeah.
You,
Well,
like,
and
blew
again,
it
it comes down to
point.
the mistake. Like we made a mistake. We
Yeah.
made a mistake in who we chose, and just like Noonan and Paulie, they made a mistake. Especially because AJ has been talking about these hostages and throwing, like it's in the ether. And honestly, I'd love to know from Ben and Jesse whether they had thought about throwing before AJ put it all out there and was like, "This was a tactic that people could do."
Well, the other interesting thing was, and we heard out later from AJ, that it was like, I thought you were encouraging them to throw to save their compatriots. And then he's changed his tune once he saw Max go, which was interesting. That he's like, well, no, now I'm going to throw. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, it was. So he thought the whole thing worked because he was like, now I've got information. I know now that there's no crack in the Brawns over there. That they're picking off the brains one at a time, and so now I start to throw because now I can get rid of theirs. Whereas if it had gone the other way, then we could have got rid of them and vice versa.
Yeah.
So that was his tactic. But again, saying it out loud, putting it out there has really made him public enemy number one. People are like, this guy is like, we don't like him.
The thing I don't get about this play from AJ, it's like, if that's your plan, you should have a close enough alliance that you can talk it through with and go, hey, what I'm thinking is we'll do this, we'll get rid of Paulie, we'll get rid of Noonan, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get why you don't bring people in on that plan if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah, and it is, and I'll save this for later on, but it is ruffling feathers. It honestly does for no.
It was to
Got
rustle
riled up.
feathers,
It's about
ruffle
that.
feathers.
Thank you. Now Noonan is really upset, and so when they lose, there's two things. One, I don't know why AJ said this either. It was just a really funny aside. When Ben hits the last one, and then AJ sort of always says to himself, yeah, like it's actually a pretty easy shot to actually get.
Sure,
I'm like,
man.
who is that for, AJ? I thought it was
Sure,
really
man.
funny. But the last little bit with Noonan on the mat chat where she's blowing up at AJ, because sometimes they just give the idol, they go, you won, guys, go back to camp. They let Noonan explode here.
Yeah.
And it was really passionate. And this was sort of the downfall between AJ and Noonan's relationship, because Noonan was so angry and just put it out there and like, you didn't tell anyone, and you made that decision, you took it out of everyone else's hands, you did this, and it was great. Like, it was so passionate. I loved
But
it.
it's what it should be, because it's
yeah.
like, you've just told me you want to work with me and keep me here, and then you do something that puts me in complete jeopardy. Like, what are you doing? Like, I completely sympathize with Noonan in this moment to be like, I'm trying to win this to stay in this game, and you're throwing it, and you're potentially sending me home.
Yeah. 100%. And so now we're in the scramble. We're in full scramble, and we're still talking about tribal lines. And it honestly, it broke my heart when Noonan was there with his ankle, and everyone just left. And she literally had that moment by herself where she just sort of said, "And now I'm here talking to." Is there Ian Malcolm? And now I'm here talking to myself. It's chaos theory, Josh. It's chaos theory.
It is. I really did like that moment where, like, it's literally the whole tribe, everyone else, and then Paulie rocks up, and they've got the plan that they're going to put the votes on Paulie and Noonan. And, like, how weird is that when the person is there and you're discussing that they're the split vote? Does that ever go well?
No, and it's funny, and they do edit it badly sometimes. I remember it happened once to us where in this what ultimately ended up being the Sarah vote, in ours, when Sarah joined our conversation, she's like, "What is actually happening, guys?" And everyone just sort of went, "Oh yeah, no, all good," and then everyone just leaves the conversation, and it edited in a way like I did pull Sarah aside and Alex aside, and we had a conversation, but just showing that moment. Whereas this was literally dead. The conversation just stopped. You need to have a backup conversation. You need to be able to be like, yep, so this is what we're doing, guys. And everyone's got to pick up on what you're putting out there.
But like
everyone's
what
got
else,
to pick up real quick.
Noonan was the only person not there, right?
Correct.
Like, what is
Correct.
Paulie expecting? It's like,
It is pretty funny when Paulie then says, well, who we're splitting on, and
Yeah.
everyone else is there. So I'm like,
exactly.
I'm
it's
like, what? Who are you going to say we're splitting on, mate? You're there, and then and then AJ has that awkward thing. Is like, I feel weird saying this because you're sitting right next to me, but yeah, then 3 on you, and then Kaylin, the strategic mastermind. Because honestly, there was a lot of chatter about him being this big game player and him playing under the radar and everything like this. But then this moment happens where Kaylin goes, no, AJ. You said before that it's 4 on Paulie.
Yeah.
And then AJ sort of looks, and then Paulie's just like, what? No, that makes me the main vote. It's not that.
Yeah.
And it just sort of blew it. And it's that brain fart of just forgetting where you are, because
it's
you
almost.
you go.
I was going to say, it's almost like, of course, Paulie's not in this conversation. Why would Paulie be in this conversation?
Yeah, exactly.
He shouldn't be in this conversation.
It's funny because the amount of brain power it does take to split votes, and like, okay, what are you doing? You're voting on this person. You're voting this person, because then you go talk to like in this case, the person that we're lying to, which is Paulie. You need to know in your head what the actual split is, and then you need to know what the fake split is, and you need to be able to pull that out of your bottom instantaneously,
Yeah.
like straight away without a hesitation. Go, oh no, it's these four. And Kaylin just hasn't had to been exposed to that enough yet to really get that under your belt. And it was it was a
One
pretty
of
brutal
and one of the
conversation.
crazy things that Paulie said as well,
Mm,
right towards the end of this when they're about to go off to trial, where he was saying that Noon is my ride or die, but like consistently talking about if I'm going to have to vote for Noonan, I'll do it.
do it,
Like I
yeah.
found that really weird that you're calling someone your ride or die. It's like no, you're not going to die. You're
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
you're just
you're
going to
gonna
get rid of her. So
you're just gonna ride.
yeah,
It's just
without
riding.
her.
Exactly.
So like I found that very, very
Mm.
strange that you would refer to someone as your ride or die, which should mean I'm never
You
voting.
would
I'm never
never
writing
voting
their
them
name
out.
down.
I would
We're going to
never
go
vote
through
them
this
out.
to the end because you can't see a pathway through without them. But Paulie
Yeah.
feels like, well, I've got this idol. I can probably get through without Noonan.
And Noonan does a good job of identifying the crack is Logan, and the crack is Logan versus AJ.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think hurt Noonan was that she was brought into this by AJ. So there was a relationship there, whereas she didn't have that initial relationship with Logan. So
Yeah.
she had to dump AJ and then start twisting and turning back to Logan and be like, hey, do you want to do something? Whereas if she had been pulled in with Logan from the start and could really be a strong two, and then Logan could have used them to get rid of AJ. But because it happened the other way round, AJ got his hooks into them first. That's when it was really hard for Noonan to backtrack. So now we're at Tribal Council, and God, Noonan went down fighting, mate. She went down fighting.
Yeah. It was really interesting, like them trying to really lay it on thick to be like, you've got to get rid of AJ. Even Paulie, who ended up voting with them, I found really surprising, trying to get the heat onto AJ, even though he wasn't going to change his vote. Like that was kind of weird.
And the gaslighting for AJ was on another level at this point when Paulie and Noonan said about, well, Logan, he's been throwing your name out there, and AJ's like, I've never done that. Tell me exactly a time when you've done it. And then they proceeded to say the exact time that he did it. And what was great about the receipts, I felt, in this situation was the way that they explained it was, you said to us that Logan is really super connected to Laura, and if we let them get back together, that will blow up the game, and we can't let that happen. So we've got to make sure we get rid of Logan while we can. It tells a narrative, it tells a story, it tells information that they might possibly not know. They haven't been on the Brains tribe. How do they know that they're that super close? How do they know all these little intricacies? And for me, that rings true. And the fact that they could explain, they're not just saying like, oh yeah, AJ, you say it all the time. You've always been going after Logan. It's like, no, these are the exact points that you did it.
And there's a logic, and you're clearly laying out the logic behind him saying that. It's like, oh, it would make sense for him to say that because he doesn't want that. I do find though that in this season in particular, people have been so open and loud about my bestie and like Logan and Laura, like Karen and Zara. Like people know they're these relationships across tribes, and I don't think people have done a good job at all about trying to not make it super
weird,
obvious.
isn't it? It's weird. And it's the same thing. It's like it happened a little bit on Titans versus Rebels as well, that people just were like, obviously Mark and the V's were inseparable out there.
Yeah.
Ferris and Ray were just like thick as thieves out there. Riri and Kirby. People weren't trying to keep things on the lowdown. It was just like, yep, this is it. This is my group. This is who I'm with. It's just very weird. And at the end of the day, they actually cook the votes. They actually, after all the talk about the split, they actually cook, and these original brains put all their votes onto Paulie.
Yeah.
So there's a majority of votes. All of their votes are on Paulie. So what it ends up being is everyone's on Paulie. Paulie plays an idol.
Yeah, 4 on Paulie.
4 on Paulie. Paulie plays an idol. Then Noonan has voted AJ, so there's 1 on AJ.
Yep.
But then it's actually Paulie and Christian. I keep calling him
Kristen. Yeah.
Kristen's votes that send Noonan home.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy that Paulie, like, obviously AJ played the idol, but like, it's very close that no one knew about that idol. If you put a vote onto AJ.
If Paulie had just gone, you know what, I'm with Noonan to the end. I'm just going to put a vote on AJ as well. And
what did you think about like Paulie obviously playing his idol? What do you think about AJ's decision in that moment? And what was really interesting, how quickly he was like, "Who'd you vote for? Who'd you vote for? Who'd you vote for?"
Instantly. He was like, he needed to double check that because it obviously was a little bit confusing. And then he was like, okay, I don't think I have this because if they've voted this way, I need to use it. So this is the lesson that Max didn't learn last tribal, that when Miles used his idol, Max should have gone, okay, the person that I think is going home is no longer going home. So I'm going to now use mine, which is exactly what AJ did. And it's a perfect example of the understanding of the game, saying the person we really want out. And I didn't vote for Noonan, so I don't know who has voted for Noonan, if anyone.
Yeah.
So I now need to protect myself because it could be a rogue vote. And so I know nothing against AJ for using his idol when he didn't need to, because it was the correct logical. And this comes back to being a poker player. Like, he's just run the numbers and goes, there's a percentage chance that I could go home here, so I'm just going to save myself. I thought that was good. I thought
So
that was really
what? Just out of curiosity, what would happen then if both of those people end up not getting any votes? They say there's no votes on Noonan.
So in that case, you do a revote and you can't vote for those two.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and everyone just revotes.
That would have been interesting.
Which would have been
just to
super
see
interesting.
what people go. Like, they'll probably just go for Noonan, but it would have been interesting.
Yeah, it could have been super interesting. Well, the thing is, if AJ didn't use his vote right, and it ends up being votes on AJ and Noonan, and it was even Steven, right? And they did split correctly. I actually think you could have turned Logan. You could have turned people against AJ in that moment. I actually think you could have gone, if it's between AJ and Noonan, let's just get rid of AJ now. I think there was a chance.
Could you use an idol on a revote?
No, you can't.
No, you just got to use that first one.
You just got to use it first.
So,
and I think Noonan actually tried to make AJ use his idol. I don't know whether she was trying to stop him from using it or trying to make him waste it, because she was like, I'm already dead.
I think she was trying to stop him in the hope that he had votes on him that he would go home.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I think she's trying to stop him.
It could be the other way, that she's like, I'm dead in the water. If he's got an idol.
Nah, I think the way she reacted to Paulie, it's like nah, mate, you should have. I thought you would have voted with me. Like, I think that speaks to, I thought you voted with me. I thought AJ might go.
Yeah. So that was 10. Look, honestly, we spoke for this one a little bit. I think this was the best episode out of the 3.
Yeah. So having a double idol play is very interesting.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting. Yeah. And so now we're on to episode 11, Josh. What piqued your interest in episode?
Well, straight away we got the fallout from the night before with Karen fuming at AJ for not letting her know about the idol. I think Karen is maybe making a bigger deal out of this than she should. It does not seem like AJ and Karen are this super tight group. There's like, they share everything, they tell each other. It seems like a tense relationship. That her reaction to this, I think, has been not what I was expecting.
For someone that is a game player and really understands it, like, there's one aspect of it, it's like, I just want to make him feel guilty. Of course he shouldn't have played it. I just want to make him feel bad and try and get him to sort of come back to me. There's that aspect of it. But it did seem like she was genuinely pissed off with him.
Yeah.
And you've got to think about it from the point of view, hang on, if you had an idol, would you go to AJ and say, hey, AJ, look at what I've got? And you can't expect people to live up to those standards if you're not going to do it yourself. And I guarantee you she's not doing that. So it's a little bit hypocritical. I think.
The other thing I wanted to ask you as well about Paulie, do you think if Paulie...
Can you please call Paulie his correct name?
What's
the
that?
snake oil salesman Paulie.
So Paulie, obviously, he doesn't survive if he doesn't use his idol there.
Yep.
Can you trust Paulie now as those other people in using him as a number? The fact that you've put the most votes on him to get rid of him, can you still then work with him future? Or is it like once you put that many votes on someone, are they kind of just, you're never going to work with them?
So what it becomes everyone's focus is going to be on like, well, we tried to get rid of Paulie that time, so he'll be the next one. We can get him the next time. Yeah. And it becomes a default of like, well, it's okay. If we go again, we can just go back to Paulie. And it makes it really hard for Paulie to re-ingratiate himself. All he can do, and this is what he's done these last 2 episodes, is just pitch the anti-AJ, the stuff that Noonan was always doing, like try and get in Logan's ear. Hey, what can we do? What can we do? But it's self-fulfilling prophecy. The more people call you a snake oil salesman, like
the more snake oil you sell.
It's SOS Paulie, snake oil salesman Paulie.
The funny thing I found about Paulie's pitching though was about like my integrity, and AJ doesn't have his no good. Yes, my integrity of voting out my ride or die.
Yeah, I know.
It's such great integrity there, Paulie.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's hard to say, like, I'm super honourable, trust me, when things like that are happening, but it's self-preservation in that.
Yeah, I don't mind generally saying that, but in the face of you voting out your number one, it's kind of like, you're in this for yourself, mate. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone is. But it is just trying anything at this point, because it's going to be, and I say this all the time, it is so hard to change people's perceptions of you. Once you get painted with a certain brush in that game, it takes something monumental for things to like shift how people see you.
What do you think you got painted with on your season?
I got painted with like the super fan, knows the game really well. Like I couldn't just turn around and be like, "Oh, what's happening now?" Like when
Yeah, yeah.
the merge sort of thing. It's like, no, no, no. You know exactly what's happening now. It's never gonna come away from you. Just like Mark the diplomat. Oh, Mark's always making deals. He's talking to people. Or Ferris. Ferris actually got a little bit of and from Kirby and stuff like that, which was not based on a lot. But oh yeah, Ferris is yeah, he's double dealing a little bit where he really wasn't.
Mm,
He was pretty loyal to like Garrix and these people. He didn't turn on no one really turned on anything, but it is really hard. Like it's gonna be hard for Paulie and it's gonna be really hard for AJ to shake
yeah.
these thoughts off.
Should we talk about the Brains tribe for a bit?
Yes, let's talk about the Brains
So we had
tribe.
2 new alliances formed, didn't we?
No, we had three new
Oh, did we?
alliances
3, was
formed.
it?
This was Alliance Apocalypse. We had Jesse's brainchild, the Mega Alliance, which is possibly one of the stupidest things ever. When you say, "Hey, everyone here, let's all be a big alliance and let's just go together." And
You
it's like we're
know,
all saying, "Who's voting off? Who's getting voted off first when we go to tribal
but you
council?"
know my favorite thing about the Mega Alliance is like the idea of, well, we already had a Mega Alliance on the other side, so let's get one here as well, and let's join them all together, and then everyone in the
Everyone's in
whole
a Mega
season
Alliance.
will be on this one alliance.
And you can't vote us out because it's a Mega Alliance, and we're all it was ridiculous.
So strange.
Then you've got Girls Gone Wild,
Yes.
which again it's just based on the most flimsy premise of like, should we just do something? Yeah, let's do something. Girls Gone
It
Wild.
did. It did seem though a bit like Jesse and Ben were sort of strong arming and running this. At least from
Mm,
what we saw, that they were
yeah,
dominating the conversations and this is what we're going to do and all this kind of stuff. So I can understand that you'd get a bit fed up with that if you're on the other side of that.
but I just don't think like it's not an alliance that's going to run the gauntlet of the whole game.
It,
It's
it
just
doesn't.
not.
No,
It's
it
just by
seems like, yeah,
convenience.
an alliance of
It's just by
convenience rather than
convenience.
connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then finally, we have the hunks. The hunks are here,
Oh yeah.
baby. And
Yeah.
you couldn't just it was so funny when they came up with the hunks idea. So this was a conversation between Ben and Jesse, and they were just talking like, "Oh man, I think the girls have been talking for
I think
ages.
that's up to something.
Something's happening here. Maybe we should just get Miles to jump on us and vote with us and everything." And then it just literally pans down, and Miles is sitting there. And they turn around, and Miles is like, "Yeah, okay, cool." He
Right
can
on,
just hear
guys.
everything you're saying. And Miles does not want a piece of this at all. But he just, it was so beautiful how he just sort of milked it. And then how painful was it with Jesse and Ben sort of trying to come up with the strat? They're like, well, now we've got Miles. So it's like Miles, PD, me, and you. And then it's the four girls. And then they realized it was 4-on-4. And then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. So it's four. So we need one of the girls. It's like, well, you don't have the girls.
Yeah.
So what's happening in your brain cogs now? Because it
Yeah.
all sort of falls apart at this point.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't seem like really intuitive, clever stuff. Like they did pick up that the women were sort of doing something against them, but I
Yes.
don't think they necessarily worked out. Hey, can we bring them back in? Can we do something with the other guys? Like,
Yeah. So
yeah,
one thing I want to touch on here is obviously Kate and Morgan go to the girls and sort of say, yeah, let's form something. Jesse's being too much of a boss. Now, I'll tell you right now, it is so hard in the scramble to do something under the radar, to do something subtly and under the radar because you see everyone doing everything. You see everyone's conversations go off. So if the girls put a good cover story saying we'll talk to the other girls and
I
tell
was going
them
to
what's
say that it
happening.
worked out perfectly. They were like, hey, you guys can go and sell the story to the girls. So that was like really
Perfect.
lucky that they had great cover.
That was so perfect. What then happened was that conversation obviously went for ages, which it shouldn't go for that long. It should be tell them the plan and then come back.
Yeah,
Then the girls had a separate conversation to each other. As soon as you see that separate
yeah.
conversation, you're like, why haven't they just come back to the fire here and back with us? Why are they having another chat? And instantly alarm bells start going off in my head. Honestly, that's what happened a few times in our season. There was one point where Carolyn and Kitty were worried and they were having an extra chat. And then it sort of Ferris saw that and was like, hang on, why are they talking so much? Isn't the
Yeah.
plan locked in? And you just see it all. That's why it's so hard to do something under the radar right at the scramble.
Well, the
And
silly one
it's really
was,
brutal.
and we'll get to the scramble a bit later, but like Laura pulled Kate aside to literally just go, hey, by the way, I trust you.
Yeah.
Don't need to have that conversation, mate. Like, it just totally made it so obvious that you guys are probably working together.
And what ended up happening was they told them the plan, and then Laura freaked out at being the split as well, and she was like,
Yeah.
"I don't want to be the split," and they're like, "Well, that's what the boys are doing, so we're not going to say to them, don't vote on Laura.
Yeah,
This is just what it is."
exactly.
And she was very much like, "Oh, well, I don't want to. No, I don't want to do this." It's like, "Well, it's
Yeah.
happening, guys."
Yeah.
And then her squirrel, and this is where it's really dangerous. And being a fan, you never want your vote, you never want your name to come up, but her squirreliness there, you could see Morgan and Kate had a separate conversation saying someone needs to calm Laura down
Yeah.
because she is going to freak out. And that's the sort of thing that makes you go back with Jesse and Ben and go, you know what, let's just get rid
Yeah.
of her because
Yeah.
it's too squirrely. So
Yeah.
you can blow up your own game in that point.
Should we have a chat about challenges?
We should. So this was the poll above that. Hey Josh, let's strap ourselves in for a big chat about the challenges, mate. This is going to
The
be,
big
we're going to
immunity
break down
challenge.
everything about this challenge, and
So-
it's just
so
strap yourself in,
To
ladies
set
and
this,
gentlemen.
let's do a good setup of this. So we had some big tanks above their
Yep.
heads with some coloured liquid inside. Very
Yes.
epic build here. You got sloshing liquid
Yeah,
in there. You've got
coloured
some
liquid, yeah,
poles.
exactly,
Got some
yeah.
poles, and the idea is you hold the pole up and prevent the liquid from falling down on your head. This is a
And
test of
this-
endurance, isn't it?
This is an
Aiden?
endurance. This could go all night, baby. And you know what? They even cut poles different lengths depending on your
Yep.
height to give it all. So they've measured everyone. They've got it all there. It's
Different
all really-
strategies. Do you just put one
Oh.
hand up? You got two hands, and
Oh,
if
do you
you pull
pass it
out, the
off?
weight goes onto the others, and you can't change poles. Very complicated. We're going to be locked in here.
And so, imagine my surprise when 2.5 minutes into this challenge, you hear, what's happening? It's getting heavy. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And then it's over.
It was
And
so
again-
weird.
Again, I can tell you right now, production would have been livid.
Yeah.
Absolutely livid at that. The amount of time it takes to set all that up and do everything and get everyone there and put it all together, and then instantaneously you've got people just going like, nah.
Well, it was
Like, that
also
is-
it was also really weird because it was like a splash, 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 tip, 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 splash. Oh, is that? Yep. Oh, they kind of did they lose? Yeah, they lost.
It's
it
because
wasn't
it's-
like it dropped and the whole thing fell on them, which is what kaplosh. That's
But
what
do
you
you-
wanted.
But kaplonk. What happened?
What happened?
What happened? Yeah, comment in the comments if you get that reference.
Hey, what
What happened? Kaplonk. What happened was that happens when someone is slowly lowering their thing rather than going, I don't have any more energy.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
So it was honestly
And
terrible.
as well, every time Ben has thrown these challenges, he's got this like really clear sheepish look of like, oh yeah, don't know what happened there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Got no
yeah.
idea,
Oh,
no
mate,
idea,
yeah,
no
yeah,
idea. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
mate, you've been dominating every challenge you've done,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you suck. Like it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And I think it was just really disappointing. And when you look at the challenge, the next challenge that comes up in the next episode with the balancing the blocks, that's genuinely suspenseful. Oh, who's going to drop? Oh no,
Yeah.
who's going to do this? Right. That's actually what challenges should be. That's
Yeah.
when it's really interesting to watch. When you go to a challenge and someone just goes, "Yeah, cool, I'm out." It's just like, why are we even doing this?
So, what do you think is the solution in terms of Survivor production to stop people wanting to throw when their allies are in danger?
There is nothing that can stop it. The
Yeah.
only thing that can stop it is the fear of God. You know what? It actually happens more often than not. The team that throws the challenge, the person that actually throws it ends up going home.
Yeah.
If you look at Survivor as a whole over the last 25 years, that happens more often that when someone throws the same. It happened with the Cuddle Club in Titans versus Rebels. They threw that challenge and Tobias went home or Peter went home.
With their
whichever one it was
strong
first.
minority,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
their big minority.
That's the risk, and anyone's got to think of the risk of that. But for whatever reason, this season, everyone feels really confident in their group. I tell you right now, when you start looking at Kate and Morgan talking like that, Ben and Jesse are not throwing any more challenges.
Yeah, totally.
Like they're going, okay, this is really dodgy now, and that's all it
the
takes.
thing. It's like they kind of haven't had to play. Like it's been a really weird season where it seems like heaps of people haven't had to really play and be in danger and be worried. And you just haven't got to this point for a lot of these players that they feel this game's easy and they can coast through. So like, oh yeah, we'll throw and just kind of, we're solid, right? We'll just knock out these people.
Well, if you think of the Brawn tribe, you had Candy, which was just sort of a first vote, like let's get out. Then everyone was going for Nash, which was
easy.
fine, and then
Zen got injured.
Zen got medevaced, and that was it. And then we did the swap. So
They haven't
Like,
had to think about too
they haven't
hard.
actually had to think at
No.
all about anything. So, yeah, it's really hard. And then scramble-wise, um, this is yeah. This was just a bit of a cluster because everyone got wind of everything and it was all sort of up in the air. Do you think Kate and Morgan would have ultimately stuck to their guns and gone with the girls?
I think they might have got scared based on Laura's reaction. I think Laura being really worried about it, it didn't seem like a really solid group, and it didn't feel like they built a connection and been like, oh, I actually get on really well with these guys. These are the guys I want to work with going forward. It was more, I'm scared about the boys. Can we run over there to these guys? So I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I think maybe because the way they were sharing eyes at Tribal, maybe they would have stuck together.
I think they could have. I actually think they could have. I think the girls were like, you know what? Let's actually do something.
Yeah.
They just had this epiphany of like, we can do something else. They're not thinking long game, obviously, but they've just wanted,
Well,
you get to a point where you want to do something.
Yeah, and again, around the well chat, it seemed like Jesse's just massively dictating what's going on in this tribe.
Well, he's the king of the Mega Alliance. Josh.
He is the king of the Mega Alliance. Why would you follow him?
Why wouldn't you follow the
Yeah.
king? Then there's this interesting moment where Laura goes to the well just before, like, seems very close to Tribal Council, and she finds a very delicately placed scroll.
Yeah, it
on the
wasn't
tree.
very well hidden, was
So
it?
someone was definitely finding this. This was not
Yeah.
a hidden immediate idol. Or anything. It was like, we need someone to find this. And pretty much it was someone. Now, what did you think about this editing? Because they purposely didn't tell us what it was.
Yes.
I hated this.
I
want to know what everything is happening. I want to know.
I understand for building suspense and tension, but it didn't seem like normal Survivor because I was like, hang on, did I miss something? Like, have they explained what this is? Because I was kind of,
I didn't like it.
I didn't mind it as like a tension building thing, but in this case of Survivor, as the viewer, I'm like, give me everything. Like, don't keep it from me. Like, that's the exciting thing is how they're going to use this.
Yeah, so the thing with Survivor editing classically is they'll muddy the water in terms of who's going home, but they will tell you all the pieces that are on the table.
Yeah.
They will tell you everything. So because part of the fun is, well, if they use this and they don't use this and this is this, if you've got things that people don't know, then it sort of breaks that.
Because I really like this idea as an advantage of like, you now have the information that this isn't a go home vote, this is a tribe swap vote. Like, I really like this as information to have and to use and to play around.
Yeah. So the thing that I don't know for sure is whether or not JLP would have told them just before they voted.
No way.
That it was a non-elimination.
I don't think so. Because that's the whole point of telling someone, so they know, so they can do some tricky stuff with it. Because how cool would that be if she told Zara and then they managed to work something out to be like, okay, well, let's play it cool and the votes will go on you and then you'll get to go across and they'll be bamboozled, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and then you're like, this is okay, or they go, you know who we actually, yes, we're going to vote Jesse out, but now we know it's this, so now we're not going to do that.
Yeah,
and we're going to vote for we've got to vote for you, Laura, or whatever. So I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure because historically, Australian Survivor they've started a thing now where they do like to tell. Back in the day, they did it a few times where they didn't tell you until afterwards. But anything like that, where it's a tribe swap, the last few seasons, they've said, this is a non-elimination, you're voting someone to go on the other side because it makes it a bit fairer, I think, in terms of breaking the game.
Yeah, that's true. I do hate the idea of you've worked and scrounged together to make someone go home and then they don't go home.
Yeah, I hate
that's
that
frustrating.
as well. Yeah, that's frustrating. So, and then that blows people's games up as well.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, and I know we voted for Alex and stuff like that, but Alex not going home in my season really did impact my game negatively because he was very much like, man, I can't believe you turned on me and all this sort of stuff. And it sort of poisoned the well and it was really hard to get back from that. So these non-eliminations are brutal. JLP doesn't like them either, actually. He'd rather 2 more players in the game and do tribes of 13 and then just do an elimination every episode.
Yeah.
I was like, get around it, JLP, get around it.
So the big thing with this was Laura told Zara, hey, this is the advantage I found. I'm sharing information with you because we're together. We've got to work together. How should we use this? And Zara straight away took it as, oh crap, that means you're going to go and I'm going to be stuck here. The next vote, I'm going to go home. So
because
I'm going to work against you now.
So what happens in that situation is once Laura leaves, then the girls, Morgan and Kate, they don't have enough leeway they don't have enough people to pull in the 2 girls. And as a result, they're probably not going to jump across because now you don't have those 2. So then, Zara's probably the next one to go
So do you think this is a good play by Zara for her game?
Oh, I think it was a great play by Zara. I think it was like it's pretty brutal. It does show you how brutal Zara is and how ice cold she can be.
Well, because what I was thinking, it's the case now, right? You're definitely burning a bridge and you're burning an
Mm,
alliance. You know you're burning Laura. You know now you're burning Logan. And
yes.
that's a pretty strong couple in the game. You know you've totally burnt that. Are they going to go with a vengeance after you, even though you've bought yourself a few more days, or does that beat everything? Just stay in the game as long as you can and see how you go. What
It's
do
the
you
S
think is
it's the
the best
Sandra
thing?
it's the Sandra, just anyone but me, one more day, just hang around for one more day. I think you don't worry about relationships in this point. You just go, "If I can get back to my people and be safe for the next 2 rounds," because they know merge is coming, and if you can just get through, do whatever you can to get through these last couple, and then you're there, and then it's a whole new game, and you can
Yeah.
just start again. So it really does become do anything you can. So one thing I want to talk about in this tribal council, where it literally does fall down to the two girls are just pitching. Okay, once it gets out there, once Zara sort of forces Laura's hand, it gets out there and they start pitching. Now I'm gonna say this to you. I actually think they pitched this in the complete wrong way.
Yep.
So they both pitched. I've got people over there that I can go and talk to, and I can be a spy, and then I can bring us all together, and I can use those relationships to get us in a better position in the game. No one is believing that for a second with both of these brains. Like they're just not believing it. The correct way to pitch this is actually throwing the other person under the bus. So you've got to go really hard on look, she's going to go straight back to Logan. They do not care what's going on. They're going to be so safe. They're going to create power over there. Or the flip side is Zara. She's got her own group. Karen's over there. Like they're going to be super tight. We can't let that happen. Let's move. Like you've got to show why the other person going is worse because no one's
Because
believing when you say I'm working for you guys.
it's almost like it was like a half measure of I'm breaking away from you to save myself, but I'm not going to directly attack you.
Yeah,
I'm like going to
yeah.
do it
It's
in a
half
very
measure.
passive way
Yeah,
of just being like, well, I think I should go. I
yeah.
think I should go.
And we hate half measures here at
No,
Survivor.
no good.
It's
They're no
Survivor
good.
Debrief. They're no good. Anything else from that one? We should move on to 12.
Yeah, we should. So end up Zara got voted, and presuming it was Ben, Jesse, PD, and probably Miles, I imagine, put the votes
Yeah.
on, sending Zara across back home. It was an interesting thing. I'm kind of disappointed that the information didn't stay secret because I
It
think
would have been fun.
I
It
think
would
it
have
had
been
a
fun.
chance to be a bit more interesting than it ended up being. It was still pretty. It caused an interesting tribal council.
Yeah.
Because they had to make stuff up on the fly. But yeah, it did feel a bit underwhelming in the end, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So episode 12. Now this is where we get a lot of SOS snake oil salesman for Port. Like every second word was like, well, he is a snake oil salesman after all. He's got all this delicious snake oil that
And
he's
I'm a
just
bit
funneling
thirsty
into
for some
people's
snake oil.
exactly. And it is really hard to change that. The big things that happen in this episode though, the idols, there seems to be so many idols because people keep using them or getting them like
I
voted at max lost his.
The amount that are coming up, I'm like, I don't like it when I can't keep track of how many. Like, I've got a diagram of who's got idols
Yeah.
because there's so many out there all the time. So we had Logan found one,
Yep.
Miles found another one, Miles
Yep.
also found an advantage, and
Advantage.
Kristen's got one now. So it's
Yes.
like they just keep coming up, and which they're getting played, which is good.
Yep.
But I don't know. There's something about having so many out there that that purity of Survivor gets sucked away just a little bit for me.
Yeah, so the thing with again with our season, like Ferris held on to his idol for so long, it just meant that it was never out there to re-find. We
Mm,
couldn't have those sort of scrambles, and we had the at the merge. It was like the feast or search, and I searched, and there was those two idols that you had.
that's
But
right.
again,
Yeah.
that wasn't sort of finding them. And then Alex and Riri had them for a few tribal councils, and so that everything was sort of clogged up. Whereas this seems to be okay, got to use it. Bang. Okay,
Yeah.
here's another one. Find it. Yeah, Miles will probably use this next one really quickly again. Logan might try and hold on to hers for a little bit, and that could be that. Logan's done a really good job of sowing some anti AJ seeds in people's heads, and this on top of this idol, I think this could be a really like a good opportunity to get rid of AJ at some
Yeah,
point
I
for
think
Logan.
they're coming for each other big time.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Um, the other thing that happens in this episode is Karen wants to put the fear of God into AJ.
Should we get to that when we get to the scramble?
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that with the good. Any other big moments from this then?
Mainly just Laura. I think it was part of the challenge telling about. So essentially, Zara made it out to be like, "Oh, we both found this advantage,
Yeah.
and then that's how we chose to use it." And then later in the episode, Laura makes it clear to Logan, "Well, no, I found it." And Laura's a turncoat. So, sorry, Zara's a turncoat.
The other thing I didn't like about Zara was she was way too happy about this. Like even at Tribal
Yeah.
Council, she's laughing and like clapping, and then she's at this challenge, she's waving at them all, being like, "Ha ha!" And she's at the wrong mat.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the wrong energy for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And it just is going to annoy people. And they zoomed in on Laura's face, and she was angry.
So
She
the
was
reward,
pissed.
So we had the reward challenge, which is the slide and the ring challenge. I love how well they built this massive slide, and like we're going to keep using it, guys.
They are, we have plumbed in water. We are getting our 3 tribe usage out of this. Like it was on. Did you notice as well that before they slid down, they had to dip their butts in like soap to give them the extra slide? I love that. It was very good. And then again, another physical battle down there, and we hear a pop, we hear a bang,
Big pop,
and Petey is his, what was it? His bicep.
And again, it was Kaylin. I feel very bad for Kaylin because I'm like, imagine that Zen's gone out because of you, and then this happens as well. It's like, oh man, that's brutal.
I did have to laugh though that Petey is screaming on the ground and everyone's just going around. Kaylee, it's okay, man, dude, it's fine, dude, you'll get through this. You'll get through this. And Petey's like, I'm like, guys, let's a little love for Petey as well. And you can tell it was bad because he was yelling. Like Petey was. Yeah. Like this wasn't like, oh, I heard something. Yeah, it's not heard it. He was like screaming.
And can I just give you a crazy little fact?
Yeah.
The doctor that was looking at him, that was on the ground with the hat.
You mean James Gill?
Oh, do you know him?
Yes. Oh, he was my doctor out there.
He's got this YouTube channel that I watch who does like medical exams, and I use it to fall asleep, like ASMR.
That is amazing because I listened to his, so he was our doctor out there.
That's
and I knew
great.
him.
He's so cool.
And he's so cool. And he's an awesome guy. And during COVID, he started doing those little videos and they blew up.
They're so good.
Went viral.
And the funny thing in the comments, like it's made for medical students, and all these comments are like, who else here is just trying to get to sleep? And I'm like,
this is so funny. So the thing about James as well, and this happened, there was a challenge. I'll just tell this little story. So there was this challenge where I took on Ferris in like a literal tug of war. And Ferris, I've got some height on Ferris, but Ferris is a bigger lad than me. And it was literally, you're tied to each other and you just have to pull the other one to a flag. I used all my strength. I was on the ground. I was digging my hands into the earth and dragging myself, and I was pulling Ferris a bit. Ultimately, I just couldn't get him far enough, and he ended up pulling back. But it was an epic battle, right? And I got a bunch of scratches all over me, and so I went to the doctor afterwards, and James is working. He's putting some band-aids on and stuff like that, and he looks at me, he goes, "And I watched that challenge out there, and you did it for the skinny lads." He's like, "You did it with us skinny lads." And I was like, "Yeah, thanks, man." And he was just very proud of me. He was like, "Man, like you did well, man." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." It was good. He's great. I can't believe you know him as well. That's so funny.
That's so funny.
Good pickup.
Anyway, so we had Brains winning the challenge and going to the spaghetti shack.
Yes, spaghetti
and
shack.
The big twist on this one was one at a time could go, and they all knew there's going to be a clue there, so we're going to have to figure it out.
Yep.
My instinct, and let me see if you agree, when there's a giant bowl of pasta, would to be look inside the giant bowl of pasta.
The first thing you do is you tip over the big messy pile of things, whether it's nachos, whether it's spaghetti, whether it's guacamole. You pour it out and you look through the bottom of it because 100%
Did the twist work that because you've got a queue of people, you don't want to spoil the food? Did the twist work?
This doesn't matter. You look at past players, everyone like David, the Golden God himself, ended up tricking people into going first in that. And all he does is rip everything apart and throw it on the ground and look for it. What you actually do in Heroes, Hustlers, Healers, what they did was it was on the plate there. And I think it was Ryan ended up like reading the clue and going, okay, cool. And then taking the plate and burying it in the jungle and leaving the food in a pile on the table.
Right.
And that's fine because then no one else can read it. Because
Right.
otherwise, everyone could have read that, and everyone could have run to the shelter and been
Yeah.
looking all through the shelter.
And then Miles obviously misreads it as look on the shelf.
Oh, I felt bad. I felt bad because the shelf was filled with those
Yeah.
pasta things. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, it's got to be in here. But on those things, you actually only get 3 minutes. Like, it's
Oh,
brutal. You
okay.
see them eating so quickly. It's okay. That's it. You're done. Your
Yeah,
time's
right.
up.
Okay. Okay.
But it's gross. The people eating those meatballs, that really made me really good. And poor Kate didn't get a meatball. Nobody left me a meatball.
Should we move on to the immunity challenge?
Yeah. Immunity challenge was the tightrope hold slack block building
Block
one.
builder. Yep.
Yeah. And did you notice the little trick there? The person that goes into the middle, you don't even, in the past people like inch
Yeah.
their
Feed
rope.
it in. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't do that. You drop your rope, you do your thing, you go back, you pick your rope back up, and then the next person takes and that's a better way to do it.
My question is stacking cubes and bricks like that, should you twist them and do an angle?
Yeah, I think you should slightly twist them.
Because I saw that, especially on that first one as well, just because it's on the smaller block. I was surprised that no one did the twist.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the twist is beneficial in that regard. Good pick up, Josh. But then Kate literally does a save.
I don't know about that.
Save.
The idea of like literally grabbing it and putting your whole hand on it and stabilizing it and then resetting it, I don't like that, I don't think.
No, I think that's okay.
That's okay?
If something's out, you can, because you're just as likely to knock it over. Because remember, you're balancing on a pole as well. You're just as easy to knock it over by removing it, reshuffling it. And the other thing is, the wind out there is brutal, man. The wind was going nuts. So it's a pretty hard challenge to get across the line. But the guys, they did it, man. Those brains
slow
got
and steady
across
won the race. We should also mention that PD was returned to the game. But have you ever had the idea of you won't be able to compete in all the challenges?
Well, again, a bit of survivor history lessons. Let's go back to San Juan del Sur with Missy. So she did her foot. It wasn't enough like to be pulled from the game. Like she could continue, but she just couldn't do any challenges on her feet. Like she was literally hobbling around.
Yeah.
And it was near the end of the game, and she's like, okay, I'll just do this. If there's a hand challenge, I'll do it with my hand, but I won't be able to move at all. And it is weird, and I don't know. I don't really like it. Like if you can't compete, then
it's almost like you should be in the challenge but compete as best you can. So if PD has to sit down and maybe he can't walk the blocks in or something, but he's still in the challenge, something like that.
Because
maybe.
you could get into a situation, right? And then plus there's the rule that you can't sit out 2 challenges back to back.
Yeah.
So if there's a challenge where you need to do something, PD can't sit out and then go, oh, well, they're one person down, so now it needs to be even. You guys need to sit someone out. That's not happening. And then if he's just standing there could be challenges that you just lose instantly. Maybe there's a round you go up against PD and you just win.
And you just grab his bicep.
His other bicep. Kalen, what are you doing? Come out here, mate.
I referred, in my notes, I wrote Kalen. Kalen is the destroyer of dreams. It's like, I've done it again.
He really is. He really is. He just absolutely doesn't know his own strength. It's ridiculous.
Should we just sort of quickly flick through the Brawn scramble because it ended up being for naught?
Yeah, for naught. So the snake oil salesman, Paulie, is trying everything. He's trying to get the idol played on him as well.
Yeah, with Kristen. It's just trying everything, right?
But again, comes down to you've got to build a relationship. If you're going to ask someone to do something like this, he has no relationship. She actually made fun of him later.
Yeah, and she went straight over. The other thing I found interesting, Zara, who's just popped back into this tribe, is like lecturing AJ, don't you do anything crazy. Like she's just dictating to these people these terms of what works for her game without really like understanding that everyone's doing what's best for them. You've got to keep everything together. Like her attitude in the way she talks to people, I don't think it's going to pay dividends for her in the long term.
I completely agree, and I think it's setting up one or two things is going to happen. Either people are going to see how she's talking to people, and she's going to get to merge, and then people are going to think, you know what? I think she's annoyed enough people that I could probably beat her in the end, and then then that's going to be the journey to the end, which could actually happen. The other thing that happened is AJ was going to be the split vote. I think everyone knows AJ well enough to know he's not just going to take that. So then, of course, he tries to do a Logan thing. He does a lap around. Anyone want to get Logan? Anyone want to get Logan? And then no one wants to get it. So he has, again, game awareness enough to know, okay, well, I just have to cop this one because I've ruffled so many feathers that it's just going to,
You said Russell feathers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was interesting from him to be like, I think I've done too much. I've done a lot these last few votes. As you said, I'm happy to hand the power over now, just to step back a bit, which we kind of saw from Jen in the last American season in 47, which like she kind of completely faded away. I don't think that's going to be the case with AJ, but it's really interesting for someone like him to have that awareness to be like, maybe I'll take the foot off the accelerator a bit.
Yeah, and Karen wants to put the fear of God into AJ.
Oh, yeah, this is the other big thing.
And she goes, okay, so we'll put 3 votes on him and then 4 on Paulie, and this will really freak him out. If there's one thing, you know how AJ plays anyway. If there's one thing you don't want him feeling is not confident in his group, and that one vote could have sent him home, and then you're ultimately going to keep him in the game.
Yeah,
he is not the kind of player that you if you're going to do that, you need to go all in and get rid of him, and then it's done. You can't just do that, and then because he's instantly going to go, well, I can't really trust you that much anymore. You knew this was happening.
I just don't see any value at all in scaring someone like AJ. Because all you're going to do is piss him off, make him go crazy, and I don't think that's going to benefit you if you want to get like we said, no half measures. Like, get rid of him or don't. Don't do this plan to like it seems to me, unless someone has an idol, there's no reason to scare someone. So I think
that's the only thing to try and fake him. And this one, Miles finds his advantage. So Miles is double advantage, and it's steal an idol.
Really cool. I like this. Has this been around before?
This has been around in the States. This is a new era invention in the States from 41 onwards. And it was actually really interesting when it was originally brought in. The first time it was used, it got leaked. The wrong person got told. They then told the person with the idol that it was. And then that person then passed their idol off to someone else at Tribal Council. And so then when Xander got accused of, hey, Xander, please give me your idol, he then honestly said, I do not have an idol. And they're like, yes, you do. And he's like, I do not currently have an idol. And they go, okay. And then they voted her out. So it was a pretty brutal turnaround. But once people knew that was in the game, what ended up happening was anyone that knew that they had an idol, they would then pass that idol to someone else at Tribal Council, officially giving it to someone else. They would be asked whether you have it. They don't have it. It ends up being useless. So you can really play around it. The only advantage of it this season is that no one knows that that's the case. So no one is handing off any idols.
Yeah.
So it could actually work quite well this season.
I really like it.
There's only one known idol. I don't love it once everyone knows about it because I feel like it's sort of... The other thing is, it's sort of like the idol nullifier. You know what? If you work really hard to find an idol and you're going to save yourself in the game and it comes down to it and then someone just goes, oh, I'm going to take your idol and then vote you out.
Yeah.
It's just like...
But would it be smart? Do you think Miles now, he knows Chris, I'm just going to use it and get it off Kristen? And then I'll have
only known idol.
And then I'll have 2 and everyone will only think I've got 1. And given Miles is on the bottom constantly, do you think that's a good move for him? Just to 100%. Use it and get it?
Use it and get it, and then use that idol to get through another Tribal Council, and then you've got another one in your back pocket, and you might win an immunity. Like, it's a really good... Miles is great at finding these things. Like, it's a pretty amazing.
Sniffed it out.
And then anything else in that? No.
We got to Tribal, and then what happened?
And then JLP just said, thanks for coming, guys. By the way, Ben has decided to leave the game. You're not voting anyone out.
So weird.
So weird.
I don't think I'm presuming they're going to tell us next because they did that whole delay thing with Laura to be like, oh, what is the advantage? We don't know. Are they going to explain it next week, do you think?
No. They're not explaining anything. You do not say, Ben has decided to leave the game. And then next episode go, well, this is what happened to Ben. It's a very well decided upon sentence that has been crafted to get that across. Now, don't know the ins or outs of it because, again, you would think if it was a medical evac, which is what it's being like. Ben, obviously, I don't think it really came through, but during the soccer challenge that Miles dominated, Ben actually did do his calf on that quite badly, and he has been working with an injury the whole time, and whether or not that just got worse and worse. But because then it's weird that they didn't show that.
Yeah.
Because if you want this to be the narrative, then you go, oh, well, Ben's injured. He's fighting an injury the whole time, and you layer that in.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is they've got all these purple edits happening on that tribe as well.
Yeah.
And so is because Ben ends up leaving, is that ultimately Ben didn't have a confessional for 6 episodes or something?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, we didn't see much of him. Like, oh, I guess that's why, because he just left. So why would you get to know this guy?
And that's exactly right. That's what happened to Charles. Charles got no confessionals because
Yeah.
he got screwed over in a twist, and they didn't want you to like him, and
Yeah.
so it was like, okay, that's that. Now I know why he didn't get confessionals, and maybe this is why Ben didn't get many confessionals either.
Yeah.
Like it sort of sucks. But whether or not, yeah,
Should we wrap up week 4?
yeah, that's look, and a pretty disappointing end to that. Like a pretty.
Especially when you bother to lay all this groundwork for who's going to go, all these little spaces, and then it's for nothing. I'm like, is this going to carry over to the next time they vote? Maybe not. So it feels kind of
No.
like wasted dead air, you know.
I tell you what, Paulie is thanking gods because this
Oh, yeah.
saved Paulie. Paulie was home. Paulie was
Yeah,
gone.
I think so.
Absolutely gone. Yeah. So Josh, who spun and grun do you think?
Spinning Red.
I don't know. It's hard because
It's hard.
we only had Noonan go home.
Yeah.
I guess AJ kind of did okay.
But then again, he was playing really defensive, and he was the
Yeah,
split vote, and
yeah.
Noonan got really angry with him.
It
So
could
I
be
don't think-
it could be Logan. Logan found an idol.
Found an idol, got through the votes,
Yeah.
kept on the right side of the numbers. I think it could be Logan. I think Logan could be up there. Karen, I
Yeah.
think
Again, it's kind of like
she-
because we only had one person go home. It feels like what are you basing it on? You know, because you don't really know how
'Cause it's
well
who-
they've done.
yeah,
at the end of
it's
these
who's in the
3.
best position, really. I think Logan's probably not in the best position, but maybe Kaylin maybe in an okay position.
Kaelin's
No one's going
cruising.
for him. He's cruising.
Laura's seen like Zara ended up coming good. I think she got lucky with the twist thing, so she's
Do we
in a
give
space.
it to? Do we give 1 point to Zara then?
Maybe give one
Because
to
she-
Zara because she played
Yep.
to save her game and get herself back to her allies. So maybe
Yes,
give one to
yep.
Zara, and then
And do you give two to Logan because she found an idol and she? What about Miles actually? No, Miles is still in a bad position.
Voss is still on the bottom. So there you go, get it. Yeah, maybe Logan because she found
Let's
an
give it to
idol.
Logan. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
is
Okay,
in
and
a
what
pretty good
about-
spot.
What about ruffling feathers?
It was
got
to
riled
rustle
up.
feathers,
Sorry.
ruffle feathers.
What are we thinking? I've got mine. Who I think Miles. I think he
Yeah.
spilled the beans. He found an idol. He's got the advantage now. He was in the Hunker lines for a hot second. He was laying it on pretty thick with those boys. He had no intention of going them. I think Miles ruffled the most feathers this
I
week.
think Miles. I think.
You said rustle feathers.
And I think probably Noonan for a second for the.
I think
for the
Noonan.
one.
I think Noonan's probably good. The only other one I thought was maybe Kaylin for hurting so many people. He ruffled some bones.
You
and
said
some
rustle feathers.
some tendons.
break some
but-
feathers.
But he's shattered feathers. Hollow bones like a bird.
I think Noonan's good because she did
I think
again
Noonan's
blow up
good,
at AJ and really
Yeah.
tries to cause some chaos there. but
Yeah,
nothing
I think
comes.
that's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Crazy man. That's
Weird
that
week.
brings us to the end.
Very weird
week.
Yeah.
Weird week.
Just a reminder to everyone as well, we've had a lot of comments and stuff on the videos and the clips, which has been great. So keep that engagement up.
Yes.
And chuck on some reviews on wherever you listen to the show. It helps with discovery and keeps subscribers growing. So thanks to everyone who's doing that.
And we should do a little celebration thing because we did hit 100 subscribers.
Hey.
Baby steps. Thank you for everyone to subscribe. Tell your friends. More subscribers, the better. Get them involved. Also, if anyone is in Melbourne this Monday, the 17th, Johnny Fairplay will be visiting our fair shores and we'll be watching the episode live at the Emerald Peacock with Johnny Fairplay and with a bunch of other survivors there. It's going to be very fun. You can get your tickets at survivortix.com. So please come on down. We've got some giveaways, some buffs to give away and things like that. So it's going to be very, very fun. Get your tickets to that as well.
Details on your Instagram, I think, Age.
Correct. They very much are. But that's pretty much it from us. I
Thanks
think.
so much.
we will
See you
see
next
you
week for maybe a normal week of Survivor. Who knows?
Yes, that's right. See you later, gang.
See ya.
Bye.